Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. Communities across the country are taking time to commemorate Red Dress Day. It's a day to remember the tragedy of missing or murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit in Canada. Here's Annette Francis with what happened today in the National Capital Region.
Red Dress Day began early at the headquarters of the Native Women's Association of Canada in Gatineau, Quebec, where there's an opportunity to create a faceless doll as a way to commemorate the missing or murdered.
A needle threader and your pen will be in this one.
Or bead a red dress. Angelina Pereira is an MMIWG youth representative from Winnipeg. She wants the day to be recognized everywhere.
I think it's very important to spread awareness, and in doing so, the city should be lit up in red. If you can do it for sports, you can do it for this. MMIWG2S Plus is a very important day, and I would like to see the city lit up in red.
Visitors can get a tour of the vault at MMIWG, where items to honor missing or murdered are kept for safekeeping. Brandy Stanovich says it's where this newly unveiled painting will be kept.
This was painted by Alan Sillaboy from Millbrook First Nation. He's used the petroglyphs here and the language, and this is what it means. All women not in this world, they are tendered from the Creator, and the others will return. So this is very important as it represents all the missing and murdered Indigenous women and Two-Spirit people, and knowing that Creator will find them and bring them back to us wherever they are.
Across the river, a group gathered on Parliament Hill wearing red in honor of loved ones. It's been an annual event here since 2006, and once again, Senator Michelle Audette joined the family. She offered words of encouragement.
We're alive. We're standing, we're strong, we're resilient. We have a huge bag of portage of trauma, not only one form, but too many forms. We carry those stories, and that's my commitment in my own way to go inside to remind the people who makes laws or legislation or studies, hey, we're alive.
A family from Kainai Nation in Alberta made it to Parliament Hill. They are running across Canada and started from St. John's, Newfoundland on April 12th. In 2009, a family member, Jovian Big One Head Spot, was murdered. So they're doing the run for families like theirs. Lorene Bearshinbone said it's been a healing journey. She said the unanimous vote on a motion tabled by NDP MP Leah Gazan this week for immediate action gives her hope.
I really feel like, that we are going to actually get our justice very soon. Actually, with everything that's going on and the support that everyone has, and like together we're really coming together and having this voice. And with that, I can honestly say that anything's possible, and I'm going to remain positive and optimistic through this all.
Supporters and families say they'll be watching for action for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. The Kainai Nation runners are continuing their run across Canada and plan to be in British Columbia by July. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Hundreds of people poured into the heart of downtown Winnipeg over the noon hour today to mark Red Dress Day. APTN's Tamara Pimentel was there.
It started with a round dance at Portage in Maine. For Cambria Harris, this day hits home. It's the first Red Dress Day since 4 Indigenous women were alleged to be victims of a serial killer. Rebecca Contois and Mercedes Myron, both found in a landfill. Harris's mother, Morgan Harris, and an unidentified woman known as Buffalo Woman have yet to be found.
When I see my community gather like this, I see strength in numbers, but it's always for the same heartbreaking situation.
She's calling on the government to implement change.
It's not only the systems that are failing our women, but also society. How do you even and where do you even start, right? And So I guess the question is, we start with ourselves and we start with our community and we start protecting each other, and I ask that other people start protecting us as well.
Many wearing red in solidarity with the families and friends of the missing and murdered. Almost everyone here had a story of a lost loved one, like the family of Cara Fossinu.
She went missing on New Year's. They didn't find her body for 9 days. They just had cleaned out the garage 3 days prior to finding her body.
Her sister, Tessalyn Bigelow, traveled from Flin Flon to share her story.
Her story, I feel like, is being brushed under the rug.
Advocate Alea McIver says awareness for MMIWG2S Plus has come a long way, but there's still a long way to go.
Implementing the 231 calls to action immediately, and also really diving in and working on National Red Dress Alert and really implementing that as quick as possible, so we're not continuously meeting under circumstances of us losing our loved ones, our relatives.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Quite the turnout there. Well, in Saskatoon, a woman from Onion Lake First Nation organized this year's Red Dress Walk. Faith Bossy's mother, Daylene Bossy, went missing in 2004 when Faith was just 3 years old. Her mom was a 25-year-old university student at the time. Her remains were found in 2008. Faith is now 22 and says her experience as a child left behind drives her to advocate for and work with other children of MMIW. Bossy started speaking out as a teenager, and she's now a mother of two and in university herself. She says she thinks about those families who don't know what happened to their loved ones.
I lost my mother when I was 3 years old. She went missing here in Saskatoon in 2004, and her remains were found outside of the city in 2008. Thankfully, we were able to imprison the man that murdered her.
And in Vancouver, a campaign to raise awareness about murdered and missing women and girls has just been unveiled. As APTN's Tina House reports, it's about drawing even more, a wider audience to this serious crisis in Canada.
It is finally time to unveil large billboards with pictures and names of women and girls who are either still missing or were found murdered. It's been a year of planning, and the billboards will also feature photos of Butterflies and Spirit members, a dance troupe that travels the world raising awareness about MMIWG. Natasha Harrison's daughter, Tatiana, is featured along with 13-year-old Noello Soup and Chelsea Poorman. All three were found deceased in what family members are saying are very suspicious circumstances. Natasha, how are you feeling right now seeing this?
It's sad that it has to come to this to try and raise awareness, but I'm so grateful for all the people and APTN and Butterflies and Spirit and everybody who's fought so hard to get these things up.
And Noello Soup's aunt, Josie August, says she's grateful for this campaign.
We're coming up almost a year after her remains have been discovered, and we're no closer to finding answers. And it's actually heartbreaking to know that your family member is on a justice for MMIW, that we're no closer than a year later. And it's angering because she was failed at every level.
The new campaign is here at the Stadium SkyTrain platform, where 500,000 transit users pass by every day. Translink Police Sergeant Cheryl Deach says it's an opportunity to showcase reconciliation and create a conversation among those that may not be aware of what's happening.
And this is another opportunity to say, let's have respectful dialogue. Let's talk about what's really going on out there and not shy away from it. And say, what do our people need? When we say truth and reconciliation, we say MMIW inquiry. You know, they're not just reports. Those are human beings. And when you look at the stadium and you look at those beautiful women, those images, you're going to see lives. You're going to see personalities. You're going to see people.
This billboard features the late Lillian Howard, a treasured elder and strong advocate who passed away in 2021. She was an integral part of Butterflies and Spirit. And for her family and friends, it was an incredibly emotional moment. founder of Butterflies in Spirit, Lorelei Williams, is shown on a billboard with her missing aunt, Belinda Williams. She has been missing since the 1970s. Lorelei's family has been hit hard by the crisis. Her cousin Tanya Holick's DNA was found on Picton's farm along with her partner's aunt, Victoria Goosehead, who was murdered in Winnipeg in 1991.
I was grateful that there's somebody out there, like TransLink, wanted to reach out to us and do this, raise awareness of this issue. Because we need all avenues, we need everything, anything, any kinds of supports, because this is a huge issue in our country and this shouldn't be happening.
This was a private event for family members only, but on May the 5th, the billboards will be unveiled to the public, along with a special performance by Butterflies in Spirit. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
And you can find much more on Red Dress Day over on our website, aptnnews.ca. Time for a quick break and then some of the day's other big stories. Stick around. Welcome back. Well, in spite of an MP's objections, the Nova Scotia Boundaries Commission is going ahead with changes to Jaime Baptiste's riding of Sydney, Victoria. But the Liberal Member of Parliament says the fight isn't over just quite yet. APTN's Fraser Needham has that story.
It wasn't the answer he was hoping for.
All the different ways they could have redrew this map. Why did they decide to take the largest Mi'kmaq community out of the riding, the one that the current MP sits at? I mean, There was not a surprise to me that they were defensive about it, but it very much is shocking in the face of the current practices of electoral boundaries in Ontario, in British Columbia, that not only talk about UNDRIP, but talk about Indigenous representation as an important thing.
The Mi'kmaq Member of Parliament is against the recommendation to put the Eskasoni and Wagmatcook First Nations in a different constituency. Batiste says they were not properly consulted, but the Commission's newly submitted final report is sticking to its redrawing of the electoral map in Nova Scotia. Batiste believes legal challenges from the First Nations may occur.
And I think that that's what they're going to do next, because I think that they feel that the age where non-Indigenous commissions making decisions on behalf of Indigenous communities without involving them is over in Canada. And I agree with them.
APTN News reached out to the Eskasoni First Nation, the largest Mi'kmaq community in Nova Scotia, for comment. A spokesperson said a statement on the issue will be released on Monday. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
A clash over the construction of an emergency shelter in West End, Saskatoon, has a tribal council chief crying foul. The Saskatoon Tribal Council, the province, and municipal partners want to build a 106-bed shelter for the homeless. But City Councillor David Curtin sent a 3-page letter outlining community concerns and calling for a review to Premier Scott Moe, some other officials, but not to Tribal Council Chief Mark Arcand. Arcand says he's aware of the concerns, but city fire and police officials are already working with his council to solve the problems. He says Curtin's move challenges his integrity and that of his organization.
We currently look at some of the concerns in the community for the Fairhaven residents. At this point, I support those concerns, but we see that our partners like police and fire are stepping up to those concerns. So we're all working together to address those concerns.
The Trudeau government has launched a formal investigation into the Kearl oil sands mine in northern Alberta. This comes in the wake of a tailings pond spill that has been affecting local Indigenous communities for close to a year. The announcement was made by Environment Minister Stephen Guilbeault at a press conference in Ottawa on Thursday. Although the leak of contaminated water happened in May of last year, Imperial Oil did not notify local Indigenous communities of the spill until February of this year. Alberta Liberal MP Randy Boisseneau said the federal government continues to be disappointed in how the company handled the situation.
When we have an incident like Imperial Oil and tailings ponds that are not accounted for and that communities are not informed, it's simply unacceptable. And Imperial Oil CEO did not acquit himself well at committee. In fact, they did themselves no favors. And so when I hear people in Alberta saying we want answers, we want solutions, we want a real plan, I stand with those people. It's not fair and it's unjust for Indigenous communities that are living downstream to have questions about their drinking water table and, quite frankly, the health of the natural environment.
Well, it's forest fire and flooding season again, and Clearwater River Dene Nation in Saskatchewan was evacuated on May 4th as a wildfire burned nearby. According to local media reports, the fire crossed the only highway into the nation, prompting the evacuation. A Facebook page has been started to update people on the situation. Many are sharing photos and videos of the fires. The Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency is assisting with water bombers and heavy equipment on the ground. A large wildfire is also burning at Moosomin and Soto First Nations, just north of the Battlefords. And in Alberta, Parks Canada had a planned fire go out of control next to the popular tourist town of Banff. Parks Canada says shifting high winds were to blame for the May 3rd blaze. Residents and tourists were temporarily evacuated until the fire was brought under control Wednesday evening. Today, the firefighting measures are holding, but in northern Alberta, the Little Red River Cree Nation is evacuating everyone as a precaution as an out-of-control wildfire rages 6 kilometers north of their home. And just a short while ago, everyone in Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation in Alberta was told they must evacuate. Meanwhile, hundreds from First Nations in Northern Ontario are on the move due to flooding. We hope to bring you more on that in the coming days. Still to come, a new episode of APTN Investigates debuts in just a few minutes. We'll speak with reporter Christopher Reed after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And as we've been telling you, gatherings took place across the country for Red Dress Day. Our social media editor, Jesse Andrushko, captured this picture of the massive round dance that took place in honor of MMIWG2S in Winnipeg. You can share your pictures to be featured as our photo of the day. You can email them to share@aptn.ca or tag us on APTN News on Instagram. Time now to take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 16 in Halifax, sunny and 19 in Fredericton. 8 in Kuujjuaq, 13 for Happy Valley Goose Bay. 19 in Montreal and Val-d'Or. 13 with showers in Sault Ste. Marie, cloudy and 18 for North Bay. 7 with rain in Thunder Bay, showers and 15 in Sioux Lookout. 17 for Thompson, God's Lake and Norway House. 21 in Winnipeg, rain and 18 in Dauphin. 18 for Regina, 19 in Saskatoon. 19 for Meadow Lake, 16 for La Ronge. In northern Alberta, sunny and 26 in High Level, 21 under the sun in Fort McMurray. 19 in Edmonton, showers and 13 in Lethbridge. 13 with rain in Vancouver, 16 and showers in Kamloops. 18 with rain for Prince George, rain and 12 for Smithers. 5 in Old Crow, rain and 15 for Whitehorse. 22 and sunny for Yellowknife, 10 in Norman Wells. Cloudy and 2 in Sax Harbor, rain and 5 for Pawlatuck. 0 for Baker Lake and Whale Cove, +1 in Arviette. -3 with snow in Resolute, 4 below in Igloolik. Well, if we're in a war against climate change, then Canada's north might be thought of as the front line. APTN Investigates recently sent reporter Christopher Reed up to the Yukon to look at efforts to reduce the number of diesel generators. Christopher, thanks for being with us. One of the ways they're looking to replace diesel is with tiny nuclear reactors, and you spoke with Madeleine Redfern about this.
Yeah, she's the former mayor of Iqaluit, currently on the National Indigenous Advisory Board for Small Modular Reactors, or SMRs. The government has its SMR action plan, which aims to develop SMRs. The sales pitch is we could deliver them on the back of a truck. They'd generate 300 megawatts of power or less, and could be, theoretically mass produced and shipped out around the world as a low carbon, allegedly safer form of nuclear power. So Redfern and others think it's a good idea to do this in northern Canada, remote communities, industrial locations. It will benefit economic development, she says, and Indigenous communities could potentially benefit from owning a partial or full stake in an SMR power project. Also, there are military considerations, Redfern says, as we increasingly see a want to at least monitor what's happening under the ice within Canada's northern borders.
So you had a chance to kind of test the mood on SMRs with a group focused on international northern energy development.
Yeah, there is a group that calls itself ARENA, Arctic Remote Energy Networks Academy. Scientists, government administrators, and technical experts all kind of focused on doing renewable energy in the circumpolar Arctic region. The Gwich'in Council International is part of it, and the Iqaluit International Association. There was even a guy from the National Power Utility in Greenland, and ARENA was having a sort of conference while we were there with them in the Yukon. And SMRs were something they were very interested in talking about. It certainly did seem like there was a willingness to consider it, although Niels from Greenland does explain that where he's from, nuclear is just too politically unpopular for it to even be on the table. And so it goes without saying, of course, that nuclear power can be incredibly treacherous. That's why it's regulated so heavily. It's an enormous responsibility, and one that doesn't ever really go away, even if we bury the spent nuclear fuel half a kilometer down in the bedrock, which is currently the plan for it in Canada.
Well, you were in the Arctic Circle in Old Crow, home of the Vancouver. They have quite the solar project up there. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's a field of solar panels that the community owns, and so electrical power generated by the system gets sold to the utility. This is expected to net about $400,000 a year for the community, and it also means the community is consuming about 190,000 liters of diesel less per year. It provides about 24% of their electricity needs, but this diesel generator issue is a big one in the north. There are 177 Indigenous communities that are completely diesel dependent, so you're burning hydrocarbons, it's noisy too, so the Vantat-Gwitchin are considering wind power next.
Interesting stuff. Christopher, we'll have to leave it there, but looking forward to tonight's episode.
Thank you.
You can watch Nuclear North right here in just a few minutes' time. That is all the time we have for your APTN National News for this Friday, May 5th, Red Dress Day. There is a lot more news over on our website. That's aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward. Thanks for being with us tonight. We'll leave you with more from Red Dress Day. Pashat Mishko.